Welcome to Down to Earth Astrology and Primal Girl Wellness. This is Miss Jenny, and I am your astrologer. And for those of you who have managed to survive the nightmare that month that April was, only to find yourself hurled around like you're in the middle of a cyclone uh, in the month of May, I have very good news for you. June will give us quite what's the reprieve, and we've got some nice stuff ahead. So let's take a look at what June has to offer. Alrighty, so the month of June starts off with Jupiter having left Taurus and entering the sign of Gemini. Now, at the beginning of the month, what we also have is Jupiter in Gemini conjuncting Mercury in Gemini, Mercury being the ruler of the sign Gemini. So we've got right there with those two alone, we've already got a heavy emphasis on Gemini. Now, add to this mix and this potent combination, the Sun, the Moon, and Venus also in Gemini. We've got quite the mix this first week of the month. So June 3rd and 4th, Jupiter conjuncts Gemini or Mercury in Gemini, which really turns up the volume on all the mercurial things. And by June 6th, not a couple of days later, we will officially have the new moon at 16 Gemini, which is conjunct the fixed star Regalis, also pulling in the planet Venus. So all in all, this combination of things, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, Sun, and Moon, all in Gemini, promises us what would appear to be some really good stuff. Fun, light, flirty, happy, double your pleasure, double your fun, all sorts of stuff like that. There's only one small problem because there's always a fly in the ointment. This particular stellium of Jupiter, Mercury, Sun, Venus, and Moon, all in the dual-bodied sign of Gemini, will be squaring Saturn in a dual-bodied sign of Neptune. So this is what I would say to you guys. Just keep your eyes open for, look for, and don't try, if you can avoid starting things, this is a great time to not start things unless they're helped by imitation, fraud, and duplicity, right? So people making carbon copies of your stuff, cloning your stuff, stealing your work, making duplicates of it, or basically spreading your stuff around in ways that you didn't know they were spreading it around, kind of like STIs. Then this would be beneficial to you. But otherwise, for everybody else, try not to start anything new until well after this new moon, which is official on the 6th. So wait until at least the 10th before you start new stuff. Because this square to Saturn in Pisces is going to bring all sorts of problems. Now, the thing with Jupiter entering Gemini is we're already going to be having very serious conversations that will come to the forefront about artificial intelligence, its role, its function, how we protect ourselves from it, and how do we protect it from being abused by other people. These were ongoing conversations that's really going to come to a head, especially this first week of the month. Now, one of the things that is absolutely a representation of this, what we're potentially looking at in terms of issues, right, with this Gemini squaring Saturn kind of thing, but certainly this Jupiter and Gemini emphasis, is just the other day, Jeff Bezos has made the announcement that he is firing all the Washington Post staff, or at least all the journalists, because he owns the Washington Post these days. And he's replacing all their news content with AI generated content, which means no human beings will be going over the material. It will just be run through the computer systems and sent out that way. And this doesn't seem like a big deal, except that a friend of mine pointed out that one of the things that the computer scientists know, and they've been trying to ring the bell about this for a long time. People are really heavily involved in computer security and the computer scientists, is that, AI, the information it generates, we know that at least, I think they said 52% of it is typically wrong. So it's literally like taking your news broadcast from a Wikipedia entry. And a Wikipedia entry, in case you're not familiar with Wikipedia, is an encyclopedia entry where anyone can go in and edit the entry. So, and he says he knows people who do that maliciously just for kicks. So this is classic and typical of what we can expect with Jupiter in Gemini, especially as it rolls through and involves Saturn and Pisces, which will continue through the rest of the year. So don't get your hopes up too much with this Jupiter and Gemini stuff. We got a whole world of nonsense we got to go through. And remember also too, Gemini rules politicians. If you ever get a chance to look at the birth charts, because now they're starting to hide their birth charts from us. If you ever get a chance to look at the birth charts of politicians, you'll find almost each and every one of them has especially the bad ones that don't do anything except make a lot of noise in Congress and pass no laws, much less write anything. These you will consistently find strong Gemini, 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 Mercury, 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 and also Sagittarius, like across their charts, but Gemini and Mercury in particular, because it's literally much ado about nothing, all mouth, no action. So this squaring Saturn, there's gonna be a whole lot of karmic comeuppance and people being called to being held accountable for their words as this new moon involves this Saturn this first week of the month. So it's going to get hairy out there. It's going to get hairy. So if you're one of these people that spends a lot of time squawking and very little time walking, you're going to have some things to answer for. I'm just saying. Okay, now as this happens around June 10th, this whole first week is very, very busy. June 10th, which is what, a scant few days after the new moon, at the same time, Mars will be entering Taurus. Now, Mars has been in its natural sign Aries for a while now, which has been good. I mean, people have been feeling really rammy and, eager to go do be, well, as best as you can get it. And more than a little like gnashing at the bit, trying to get out there and do stuff, be ahead, be everything. Um, the roads are a classic example. If you've been watching the way people have been driving for the last month, they've really been not everybody, but some people have been driving like they're in a whole big hurry to get nowhere. Those types. They've been out in force. So with Mars moving into Taurus, what this is going to do, thankfully, is slow things down. People will slow the hell down. Unfortunately, the problem is Mercury will be in those last degrees of Aries before we get to Taurus, and that urgency, that push that we see with those last degrees of any sign, we don't like to see in Aries, especially not when it's Mars and its natural sign of Aries. So that really pushes the red button, the red panic button. So my recommendation for you guys is for this first week of the month, if you can possibly do one, lay low and keep your mouth shut as best you can. Or if you have to have conversations, keep it light and superficial. And understand that with this Saturn involvement, with this Gemini stuff, the sadistic personalities are going to be out in force. And, we do have sadists out in the world among us, people who just get off on hurting people because there's something really, really wrong with these folks. I mean, like how broken inside you have to be that the only way you can ever feel anything is by hurting other people, right? Oh my God, we've got those people walking amongst us. And this particular week, the first of the month, we're really going to be seeing a lot more of the sadistic impulses in some people coming to the forefront and really being activated. And listen, as is the case with serial killers, you never know by looking at them. You never know who's who until they start doing. So be aware of that and make sure it's not you, right? And if it is you, consider some therapy, and try to stay out of people's way for a little while and just be aware. Because with all this Gemini cluster squaring Saturn in Pisces, right? You've got this Gemini cluster squaring Saturn in Pisces, along with Mars, those final degrees of Aries. The sadists, I hate to say it, but the really broken inside, box of broken parts kind of sadists are really going to show their true colors this first week. So be careful and make sure it's not you. A good side to this first week, and honestly, I can't find it. Um, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Doomsday here, but I can't find any upsides the first week of the month. So, take it for what it's worth and just plan ahead. Okay. And definitely don't start relationships. Oh my God, if you have to start a relationship, a brand new relationship, wait until the second week of the month. Don't start new relationships under this first month, unless you're into that sort of thing. At which point, listen, sister, brother, no problem, no power to you, and all your Marquis de Sade glory. Oy, oy, oy. Okay. Now we're moving into the second week of the month. Now the second week of the month is going to bring with it a quarter moon at 23 Virgo. This particular week should actually be pretty good. There's some weirdness that goes with it, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So the first thing is we've still got this square with these Gemini planets, the Saturn and Pisces. So we're still not completely out of the woods with that yet. The difference is now we've got the quarter moon helping to set up, rather than being part of the square, is now setting up a T-square. And that T-square is forcing everything out to that Sun-Mercury-Venus conjunction in Gemini. Now, these particular fixed stars, these particular degrees of Gemini are conjunct some really active, I'll put it that way, some really active, dynamic, fixed stars. There's a whole lot of everything happening all at once. Chaos is afoot and having a grand time. So it may feel actually like it's everything we can do to kind of keep everything under control and keep people from being stupid. Um, the best thing we can do, the antidote to this is always going to be through the open leg of the T-square. In this particular case, it will be the open leg is in Sagittarius. So the way to get through the second week of the month, as all this mayhem and chaos seems to want to instill itself at every opportunity, is to keep your eye on the prize. Keep focused on the bigger picture, right? The bigger picture, the more generous picture, the more principled picture, all those big high-minded Sagittarian things, philosophy, um, religious discipline, right? Charity, faith, optimism, the big picture as opposed to the little picture, all of those things keep your mind there, and that will get you through this uncomfortable week a lot easier. Now, this isn't to say that this whole week's going to be awful, because this is what we're getting to by the 14th when the quarter moon occurs. Prior to the 14th, between the 7th and the 14th, it's not, I promise you it's not so bad. So there are a couple of things happening, right? The first thing is we've got Jupiter still in trine to Pluto. Now, Jupiter has been in trine to Pluto all month. Well, all month, so we're only 2 weeks in. For the last couple of weeks, it's moving away from that trine, but it's still there. So that does give some potency to our actions, which is why you need to be very careful you're spending your time around and getting hung up with. Mars at the same time will be squaring Pluto this week, and that's not helping. So Jupiter and Pluto tends to overinflate things and really make them huge, catastrophically huge. And Mars squaring Pluto can make you a mean billy goat if there ever was one. Mean, 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 mean. And of course, you've got this Gemini set Pisces thing happening involving Saturn, which is bringing out sadist in a lot of people. So I promise you a better week. This is not it. This particular week, the big challenge is going to be to focus, right? So, and it's just going to be difficult. There's going to be a whole lot of noise. People are going to be very busy, very active. You're going to find that time flies the first 2 weeks of the month, and people are going to be all over the place. So things that are favored at this time have a lot to do with little bites, right? The little things in front of you, the daily tasks, the local area, the short drives, the schedule for was it today and tomorrow, but no further out. So real immediate short-term things will benefit under these first 2 weeks, or well, I don't know if they'll benefit, but they'll certainly be easier. Small tasks, small immediate urgent tasks will fare well, or at least survive intact during these first 2 weeks. Big, large projects, meta projects, things that have to do with the big picture and stuff, they're going to be a little challenged. Now, the thing to understand is during these tough times, especially these first 2 weeks of the month, and all this Gemini, Pisces, Saturn involvement, right, with Mercury and Sun and Venus, here's something surprising I want you guys to consider. If you've been considering getting any type of assistance, especially counseling, right, whether it's grief counseling, sexual assault counseling, general counseling, whatever the counseling is that you've been thinking you could probably put off a little while longer, this is the first weeks of this month are a fantastic time to open that box of spiders. You will get so much more out of therapy at this time than you will any other time. And if you're already in therapy, you're going to feel it and see it. But for those of you who have not considered doing therapy or play with the idea and just haven't felt a need to, trust me when I tell you these first 2 weeks of the month are going to be the most prime times to start the counseling or mental health process to get through all those tangles and bumps that have been hanging around in your system way too long, way too long. So anything that involves going in and cleaning up the attic in your head is going to be tremendously benefited from starting during these 2 weeks, even though nothing else is. Now, this particular quarter moon, some of the other things that are happening this week while the quarter moon is approaching on the 14th, we've got Venus squaring Neptune at the same time. Now, Neptune is at 29 Pisces, it's about to leave, and Venus will move into an exact square, but we're feeling it now. And the thing to understand with Venus at 26 Gemini squaring Neptune at 29 Pisces is it's very, very easy to get lost in la la land because it's comfortable in there. And it's like, where's it getting lost in your head? Everybody knows you in there. All the voices in the head, all those people know you. So the big challenge is and you're gonna have to struggle for this, right? Is to get yourself out of the clouds, right? Get out of your head, and woo woo la la land, and actually work at seeing things objectively, or at least recognizing fantasy thinking and wishful thinking and wool gathering for what it is when it's happening. This is a great time for creative expression, not such a great time when you need to be honest with yourself or other people. So that's our second week of the month. Or it sounds like the whole first half of the month is just gonna be like all kinds of noise and cacophony, right? More chaos. Like you want more of that after April and May. But I promise you it will be better and feel better because Gemini is a light touch. Gemini is the fairy dancer. So, these first 2 weeks of months, as chaotic and confusing and busy as they will also be very light and mirthful and breezy and easy come, easy go, and everybody's gonna be able to breathe easier, as it were, right? And also look for high winds, lots of windy or wind-related storms and stuff, more so than usual during this time. But it will be easier, lighter, brighter, sunshine, dandelions, flowers, butterflies, and bees. It'll be good, even though it will seem like chaos, but it'll be like that springtime chaos and people have more energy than they know what to do with. It'll be okay, I promise you. It will feel nothing like April, May. This is gonna be much lighter and put a spring in your step if it, if it doesn't completely blow up your schedule. Okay, now the third week of the month, we're looking at a couple of things. So the full moon occurs on the 22nd, but prior to the full moon, we've got Mercury and Venus sliding out of Gemini finally and into Cancer. So June 18th, Mercury and Venus will enter Cancer, which is going to give us a much slower pace and a much more introspective pace. And we're going to be a lot more serious about what we need to get done. So the ability to focus and concentrate will be better at this time. Now the challenge though, here's the challenge. As it is doing that, when it was at 29 Gemini and now it's what, zero-ish Cancer, the problem is that it will still be squaring Neptune. So it didn't do so well when Mercury and Venus were in Gemini, squaring Neptune. That was just a difficult position to deal with. But once it slides into Cancer, it's actually going to be a little easier. But we won't see that until later in the month. For right now, at the very beginning, when Mercury and Venus move into Cancer and it sets up that, kind of, sort of square, it's an out of sign square to Neptune, it's still going to give us a little bit of the, Mr. Fuzzy Bottom kind of thinking, but it will be much more kind, right? And loving and emotionally driven and relationship oriented and connection seeking, as opposed to the sadistic Gemini Pisces crap that we were dealing with the previous 2 weeks. So all of this sadists can go home, go to sleep now. We don't need you. Because all the big, wear your heart on your sleeve, squishy bottom, lovey-dovey cuddles and stuff people will be dominating the scene after the second week of the month. So for you guys who are sensitive to this stuff, it's okay. You can come out of hiding on the third week. I promise it'll be much better, especially if you're dating. So for those of you who are dating, to date, like actually date, like looking for a partner date, this is about the time it's good to get out there and start really seeing what's in the market. The first 2 weeks would be great for hookups or masochists, or both, but not for people looking for real serious relationships. So if you're dating and mating, this would be starting the third week when Mercury and Venus slide into Cancer. This would be the time that's really good to start looking at potential candidates because people have settled down enough and the noise will have silenced down enough that we'll be able to see what we're working with. Okay, the full moon is in Capricorn. It will occur on June 22nd, 2024. We're not seeing a lot of downsides to this full moon. I like it. I like it. Mars will be in trine and sextile to the full moon, which gives us much more steady, focused direction. People will say what they mean what they say, and be walking in the direction that they're talking, most of us. And that'll be very, very good. Saturn will also be making sextiles and trines to the full moon, which again, down to earth, committed, walk the walk, talk the talk, all that sort of stuff. It's a good time at this point. So a lot of the noise and cacophony and all the pot stirrers, as I like to call them, will have gotten tired and gone home by the third week. Now it's time for the grown-ups to enter the room and start getting the job done. And you're going to feel that. That's the vibe and the energy once we get to the third week and we're heading into that full moon. So take heart and hang in there. We're getting there. We're getting there. brings us to the last week of the month and a quarter moon at 7 Aries. Okay, so we weren't getting too much peace and quiet. Couldn't have that. All right, so the quarter moon at 7 Aries, it's wide. It's really wide. Venus will be out there, but Venus is like 14, so it's pretty far out there. Um, and it's in Cancer, which is a nice place for it, but we're not feeling it. So here's the thing about this particular quarter moon. The quarter moon in Aries will involve Neptune still, even though it's in a different sign, they're still just close enough together with this quarter moon that we're feeling Neptune. So there's a bit of confusion about the directions we need to go in to get stuff done, right? And also maybe a little bit of over optimism and possibly unrealistic thinking about people's potentials and potential situations. There's some confusion and there's some over optimism and glamorizing, that's my word today, glamorizing of situations and people at this time, but it's not harmful because it is an out of sign conjunction to the moon that we're dealing with. Now, at the same time, Saturn and Mercury will be in trine to each other, which is brilliant. So I'm not worried about the over-optimistic, unrealistic, fantastical imaginings we might have about people, things, or outcomes because Mercury and Saturn are in trine to each other, which is going to make us much more pragmatic and realistic thinking in terms of how we approach things. So I don't imagine anybody's going to get too far away with their feet, floating off the ground, which is great, right? Jupiter still remains in trine with Pluto. It's a wide trine, 6-degree orb. I'm not comfortable with 6-degree orbs, but the general feeling is still there. And Jupiter, we can give a little bit of a wider orb too. So with Jupiter making a wide trine to this Pluto, we're still feeling that that super boost, right? If you could like maximize, that's the word. If you could maximize the potential of something, Jupiter and Pluto together is definitely going to maximize the potential of things. So we're still feeling it, just not as acutely as we did at the beginning of the month, which is good because at the beginning of the month, it was pure chaos. Now, Uranus will be making a sextile to that Mercury as well as a sextile to that Saturn, bringing them both in. So the ability to find solutions and not breaking down doors, but breaking through barriers, getting over hurdles, right? Surprising ourselves with what we can do in terms of potentials. All of these good things that come with Uranus and Taurus are going to reveal themselves this week. So we've got some really good opportunities here for things to happen in good ways. And that is, oh, sorry, one last thing. By the end of the month, June 29th, Saturn will, that pesky Saturn, will station retrograde at 18 Pisces. So Saturn is the planet to watch this month. Now, when Saturn retrogrades in Pisces with this particular configuration, so the good news is when Saturn retrogrades in Pisces, it's not being squared by this truck ton of Gemini planets. Oh my God, that would have been a 12-car pileup collision in the middle of an interstate. But we're not dealing with that. When Saturn stations retrograde, what it's actually doing is being beautiful sextiles and trines to Mars, Uranus, Mercury, right? Venus. It's making beautiful, beautiful trines all over the place. So we're going to end this month on a very, very good note. And Saturn going backwards in its sign is going to give us a second chance to go back and make right any of the wrongs that we need to make right, right? So for those of you who are looking for atonement or trying to make good in the world, trying to do the right thing, as it were, trying to do the right thing. This end of the month will begin the process of giving you a second chance moving through the summer to go back and do it the right way, or at least, at the very least, give you the opportunity to make amends for things that you've done. So going back over blueprints, plans, and all sort of stuff is definitely in the works. But we won't have to worry about that until closer to the end of the month. And even then, it's completely supported. It will be beautiful. And we're going to have lots of opportunities to get it right this time. And this image is the portal, the virtual portal that's connecting New York and Dublin, Ireland. Where apparently you can stand in front of it and see people on the other side of the portal on their side, and you can communicate back and forth with each other. It's kind of cool, right? Teleportation is literally just around the corner. And this also concludes our video horoscope for the month of, dear God, what month we're in? June. Today's date is, I should know this, I'm so sorry. Today's date is the 30th. So you guys can click out now because the rest is just personal stuff from me and some notes for subscribers. So if this seemed like a shorter, thin monthly horoscope, it's probably because it is. So we're going to be doing a lot more subscriber exclusive content, kind of parse out different parts of the month as we go along. But otherwise, there's just not a lot that's huge, or ground shaking for this month, that we need to worry about. The first 2 months are going to be hairy for sure. And we'll do little subscriber exclusive videos about that. But nothing to be too terribly alarmed at. Remember, Gemini is like, the music box dancer. It's light, it's glib, it's fast on its feet. It's very much in the here and now. Mercury and Gemini, both, because Mercury's ruler of Gemini, doesn't like to get mired down in stuff. It's gotta go. Let's move it. Gotta go. So they're like chaotic good or chaotic neutral. Um, so that's what we got the first couple of weeks, which actually won't be so bad. I think a lot of the chaos that we're going to be seeing is just people not being sure what the heck to do with themselves because it's officially the start of hormone season, spring and early summer. And I think that may have everybody a little bit nuts right now too. And I am, just so you guys know, I am not on camera because I am having a huge toxic dump physically right now. So I am having skin eruptions everywhere. I'm in quite the state. Uh, and I've got to do some stuff in terms of getting my physical health in order because it's just gone on too long. So there's a lot of stuff going on my end that's kind of got me a little like, I'm not at 100% right now, and I apologize for that. If you have any questions about the month ahead, please feel free to post them. I will try to get back to doing more videos as soon as possible, as soon as I'm feeling better. And here's a story for you. You've been in the corporate world way too long when. So there's an astrologer whose name shall go unmentioned, who was putting out a thing because he's looking for other astrologers to share the platform with, to have a conversation with, which I totally get. Listen, can I tell you? Nobody warns you how sick of listening to yourself, talk to yourself, you're going to get doing content creation. So, with that said, they're looking for somebody to co-host because they need someone to talk to too. Because apparently that's the thing now on YouTube is everybody is chatting away with each other. They're all chatting away with everyone but me. Probably because I can almost guarantee the people who aren't talking to me are the ones who said Trump was Leo rising too. I wouldn't talk to me either. Anyway, so I did a Harari on whether I would be accepted as a co-host, and I didn't think I would be, because I am definitely not everyone's cup of tea. And the Harari came back with a very decisive no, no, thou shalt not pass. And it very clearly showed a very strong personal bias. And I'm like, ooh, well, that's kind of ugly. All right. So, the thing about Harari astrology you should know is one, it's absolute. There's no goosing charts or making it fit. It either is or it is not. That's the beauty of Harari. It's how unforgivingly accurate and honest it is when it gives you an answer. Because sometimes it won't. The other thing is that knowing that, getting this answer, I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of painful. Right? I'm dealing with rejection before I even get rejected. It made me have to sit back and think, well, why on earth would anybody have such a strong bias against me? But, I've got Pluto in the first house. I've been dealing with this my entire life. So it's just more of that. Anyway, so here's what I want to share. This is what I thought was funny. So of course I'm like, there's always the possibility of be wrong. So the next day I pull up my email. And this is how listen, you've been in the corporate world too long when your rejections read like this. Ready? Thank you so much for applying. We have decided to go in a different direction with the co-host position, but wanted to thank you for your application, your dedication, your enthusiasm, blah, blah, blah. That is such a canned corporate response. I can't even begin to imagine. I'm going to bet you good money this character was in human resources. I'm going to bet you good money. So that was my funny story. I mean, I'm not terribly upset that I wasn't their cup of tea. They've got, was air quotes, a brand, because that's everybody's thing right now, their brand. They have a brand to protect, and I get that. And I'm not necessarily like a freaking wild card. I'm not necessarily somebody you want to have on board, especially if you spent any amount of time saying that Trump was Leo rising. So I'm not surprised, disappointed, but not surprised. But I thought it was funny that when I did the Harari, it gave me the exact answer that was accurate, of course, but also gave insight into why the answer came about, which is all personal bias, which is really kind of sad. So I'm saying all this to let you guys know that if you are subscribers and you enjoy the channel, I love you for being here because my poor wounded ego needed this. Um, and, at this point, literally, I kid you not, I'm not doing this to try and run a business or make millions off of YouTube, because if that were the case, boy, this ship has sailed years ago. But I am doing it because I enjoy the content. And for those of you who subscribe and enjoy the channel, I want you to get good quality information, when I can share it with you. And maybe someday, my friends, someday we'll have people in a room with me while I'm doing this so I can talk to someone other than myself online. Okay, and that is it, my darlings. I will see you all next month. Look for subscriber exclusives as the month goes along, and we'll talk to you later.